Erik ten Hag is no longer in charge at Manchester United as he's been replaced by Ruben Amorim. Now, in this video, I'm not going to talk to you about whether I rate Ruben Amorim as a manager or not. In fact, I made that video 2.5 years ago. And I also don't want to talk to you about whether he's suitable for the Manchester United job based on his performances at Sporting, because, of course, we made that mistake with Erik ten Hag himself. Erik ten Hag was highly rated back in the day. His Ajax team was one of the best teams in Europe, and yet that did not translate into amazing, scintillating attacking football at Manchester United. You may have noticed over the past few weeks, couple of months, that I've become gradually more and more critical of Erik ten Hag, mainly his inability to adapt to the tactical adjustments of opposition managers midway through the games. And it's through that lens that we're going to assess Ruben Amorim's ability and suitability for the job. Without any further ado, let's analyze. All right, so let's get started. This is the game that I have picked for this particular task, and it's the Champions League clash. I think this was game week 2 between Sporting and PSV. PSV are quite good this season, and they are managed by Peter Bosz, who plays a 4-3-3 formation, similar to Jurgen Klopp in that it's a high-octane, high-intensity team, but at the same time, they have a lot of technical players, and they like to have the ball at their feet. And in this game, they made it quite difficult for Ruben Amorim tactically, but he still used his tactical acumen to get something out of the game. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here. So, as you may have read already now, I think it's quite common, that Ruben Amorim Sporting play a 3-4-3 system. However, the way they press is actually by adapting to the opposition. In this case, because PSV Eindhoven are playing a 3-man midfield, so in that case, Sporting are actually pressing with 3 forwards, and then 3 midfielders will go on a man-to-man basis. But then, of course, whenever Sporting gets the ball back, that's actually when they adapt and they morph back into their initial shape, which, as you can see here, is that, you know, like, so they have the 3 center backs, and then over here, you know, the wing backs with the 2 central midfielders, and then the forwards into a 3-4-3 shape. So his team acts like an octopus in that they adapt to the opposition. And then when they have the ball, that's when they switch to a 3-4-3 formation. I've seen them in some games where they press in a 4-4-2 shape. So they adapt to the opposition. That's something that I like about Ruben Amorim. And it's also indicative of his, of course, tactical ability, but also his communication and motivation skills. But in this game, in the first half, PSV Eindhoven were head and shoulders the best team in the contest, and I'm gonna show you why. Ruben Amorim's team had a lot of problems when it came to getting the ball out. So, for example, here this was in the 9th minute in the beginning of the game. As you can see, a lot of PSV Eindhoven players coming in, pressing aggressively. But also, this is one of the weaknesses of a 3-4-3 system, is because here Hjulmand is the only midfielder left. I think Morita is supposed to be here, but as you can see, there is this big gap over here where there should be at least 1 or 2 Sporting Lisbon players over here to provide some passing lanes. But because they're playing a 3-4-3 formation, it's quite rigid. They don't have enough men in midfield in order for them to create those triangles and those passing lanes. And of course, PSV Eindhoven were actually able to put a lot of pressure on Sporting, and Sporting could not actually play any good football. They had to always go long towards Gyökeres over here, who is a very good player when it comes to, you know, holding up the ball. But in this game, this player right here, Flamenco, the number 6, the right-sided center-back, had a very good game against Gyökeres. And so Sporting Lisbon, throughout the first half, they could not actually get the ball out. This is another example, as you can see, another aggressive press from PSV Eindhoven. This area right here, Hjulmand should have been here sooner, but he's not. 2 men against 3 men in midfield made it really hard for the Sporting Lisbon central midfielders. This is another weakness of the 3-4-3 formation. And as you can see, again, they don't really have much options other than going wide. And then here, of course, they have to go direct. As you can see, all 6 midfielders and forwards from PSV Eindhoven are over here, really suffocating Sporting Lisbon, and then they have to go directly, not even a first touch over there, just straight towards Gyökeres, who usually is good at hold up play, but in this game, again, like I said, Flamenco had an amazing game against him. Now, this inability to play out from the back has cost Sporting dearly, because not only could they not be in the game, but also they kept giving the ball back to PSV Eindhoven. Where have we seen that before, right? That was Manchester United under Erik ten Hag, a lot of speculative long balls to no one, and then the opposition uses that to sucker punch us, right? And this is how Sporting conceded the goal. They find themselves in this situation from a goalkeeper's clearance. The PSV Eindhoven players just play a 1-2, just taking out the best, the right-sided centre-back, the Belgian. good recovery tackle, but then here that problem, that inability to play back from the back is gonna of course come back and bite them here. He doesn't have many options that are available, so he's gonna take a risk and play long ball. And then here Schouten, who has been actually quite good for Holland in the Euros, a few shining lights for them, intercepts the ball, and then beautiful goal. So again, the inability of the Sporting Lisbon players of getting the ball out has definitely cost them dearly, okay? And it's made it extremely hard for them to move the ball from the back towards the midfield and then the forward position. But also they kept giving the ball back to PSV. So that's the problem. That's the problem that Amorim had. Now, of course, guys, if you've made it this far into the video, I'm just gonna ask you to just give the video a like. No, don't do it for me, guys. Do it for this cute puppy right here. It doesn't take much effort from you, but it helps the channel a lot. But anyway, now let's move on to the second half. So, obviously, Peter Bosz has laid out a puzzle in front of Amorim. This is what I like about football and what I love to geek out on. It's like playing chess, right? So Peter Bosz has moved his pieces, and now he's telling Amorim, okay, what are you gonna do about it? And then Amorim now has made changes. So by the 51st minute, he included a player called Bragança, who is an attacking midfielder, a Portuguese midfielder, in order to create numerical superiority in midfield. And now we're gonna see what's gonna happen. So here, obviously, Bragança now is able to receive the ball on the turn. So now the players, the Sporting Lisbon players, instead of going long towards Gyökeres all the time, now they have a different outlet, a more technical player. And as you can see here, how he receives the ball, he's actually similar if you are gonna use like a Manchester, you see that? That was actually quite good, very good technique. If you are gonna use a Manchester United reference, I think he reminds me a lot of someone like Shinji Kagawa. Okay, someone who's quite agile, quite technical, likes to have the ball at his feet. And what is really interesting about Bragança is also the fact that he's a playmaker. As you can see here, he's always scanning the area, always making himself available to receive the ball in his feet and have the game being played ahead of him, okay? And as you can see here, he's got this playmaking ability of just laying out the ball, just basically keeping the ball moving for Sporting, which has given Sporting a little bit of control over the game. Now we're gonna see that. So here, as you can see now, Sporting, they have actual triangles in midfield. Bragança over here moving, taking with him a PSV Eindhoven defender and creating this space over here, which is going to be exploited by Trincao over here. This space right here, Bragança is going to make himself available. Now we have a triangle. This is what Sporting has been lacking in the first half, and then now they can go and attack the spaces and make life harder for PSV Eindhoven, okay? And then here we do have, that was a slip, that should have been a goal. Here's another example, Gonzalo Inácio, a player who has been linked with Manchester United and Liverpool, very good center back. But to have a good ball playing center back, you also need to have players who make themselves available to receive the ball. And of course, that's Bragança, of course, here. And as you can see, his technique is just good first touch. And then that's it. Woo! That was beautiful right there. Just great ability to keep the ball and just... What this player has allowed Sporting Lisbon to do is basically just create an extra man in midfield, create those triangles, so that Sporting Lisbon, instead of having to go long towards Gyökeres all the time, they have an extra outlet, an extra man in midfield, so they can keep possession of the ball, so that they don't just keep giving it to PSV Eindhoven, because PSV Eindhoven, as we've seen in the first half, definitely can punish you if you do that. This coupled with the fact that PSV Eindhoven, who have been pressing intensely throughout the first half, now started to get tired. So literally in the second half, Ruben Amorim, with this change, replacing an attacking player. In fact, it was a winger, Gini Carmona. By replacing him with the central midfielder, someone who's more of a technical playmaker, gave Sporting Lisbon control of the game and gave them possession of the ball. And of course, if PSV Eindhoven don't have much of the ball, they cannot really hurt you. But of course, we're still at 1-0. So how is this going to actually affect the course of the game? Well, you bet it's going to be Bragança who's going to score the goal. So again, as you can see, he receives the ball in between the lines, which of course, with Morita and Hjulmand, Sporting Lisbon could not do. So basically, Amorim has switched his system from a 3-4-3 into a 3-5-2 kind of system, or a 3-4-1-2 kind of system. And it worked very well, because now he had an extra man in between the PSV Eindhoven lines. Therefore, he had an extra outlet to pass the ball around. And so Bracanta, here, as you can see here the midfield trio over there. Great tenacity. He keeps the ball in play. Bad positioning here from the PSV Eindhoven defenders. He identifies this gap over here, and you bet he's going to make a run. He's asking for the ball, and he's going to get it. And that's it. That's going to be a beautiful finish and a beautiful goal for Sporting Lisbon. All right, so what am I trying to say with this video? Am I saying that Ruben Amorim is going to join Manchester United and we're going to start winning every game? No, of course not. But one of the main sources of frustration that I've had over the past few months with Erik ten Hag is simply his inability to adapt tactically mid-game. Now, we've seen it against Crystal Palace, for example, when Glasner made the changes in halftime, and I made the tactical analysis on that. We've seen it even against West Ham and Lopetegui. I was making that video when I actually saw the news that Erik ten Hag got fired, and so I did not post that video because it just became yesterday's news. It became irrelevant. But a lot of people say, well, why didn't we take our chances in the first half? But nobody asked the question about why were we only able to create chances in the first half and not in the second half? Because the opposition, Glasner and Lopetegui, they are not walls. They're not just going to stand there and just let you do whatever you want. They're going to adapt. But why wasn't Erik ten Hag able to adapt? And so I think that the Premier League is extremely competitive. And I think that now with Ineos, having people, like Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, and Dan Ashworth in behind the scenes, they are going to be the ones who are building the team. Okay? So they are going to be the ones who are responsible for recruitment. So I'm not really interested in looking at Ruben Amorim's track record when it comes to the players that he bought or his performances at Sporting, because like I said, Erik ten Hag's performance at Ajax was also amazing, okay? But it didn't translate to success at Manchester United. But what I want is a tactical problem solver. Someone who stands on the touchline, analyzes the game, reads what the opposition are doing or trying to do, and then adapts, because that's what we need. There are so many amazing coaches in the Premier League, so many amazing coaches in the Champions League and the Europa League, okay? So we need a tactician, a tactical manager who can adapt, who can communicate those instructions clearly to the players, and who can motivate them. And it seems like Ruben Amorim could be that guy. So we don't know for now, but let's see how the next few weeks unfold. I hope that you've enjoyed this tactical analysis video. The next video I'm going to make is going to be about how we could line up under Ruben Amorim. Until next time, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the link button. Cheers.